You belong on every ground your feet grace, so don't ever feel out of place. Take up space and belong. This earth is your birthplace.
Hey loves, welcome back to the Sensual Genius channel. In this video, I'm going to do a review of the poetry collection called Zimbabwe by Tapiwa Mugabe. Tapiwa Mugabe. I hope I didn't mess that up, but if I did, please correct me. I tried my best. But this collection of poetry starts off with Mugabe talking about being seen as a soft man and giving thanks to the women in him, and acknowledging that his existence is owed to the women who prayed for him in his poem Man. He speaks about his memories of his time in Zimbabwe and paints a picture of a normal day spent there, taking in the culture, appreciating the beautiful scenery, and going through his emotions as his pride shines for his home in the poem Zimbabwe. The scene comes to my imagination as I am reading it, and I too feel like I am there with him, and it feels like home. If you are oceanic, he speaks of the desire to find places where we fit and exist without feeling like we are too much, too difficult, too demanding. He reminds us that we are too worthy to try and fit someone else's perception of us. He encourages us to stretch out, unravel, and be, despite what anybody else has to say. In Judges, he asks a simple question that puts people who are judgmental on blast. He's essentially saying you shouldn't judge people because you are not God. You did not create them. I love the way it's written. It's simple yet impactful and thought provoking. I also agree with the message that we shouldn't judge each other because we are imperfect ourselves. In the poem Woman, it feels like he's saying that there is nothing wrong with women having masculine characteristics and men having feminine characteristics. And I agree. I feel like we all have both energies and we should tap into them both without feeling ashamed of it. In this untitled poem, he's saying that the people you've been with or haven't been with doesn't define you. He compares them to hair and explains that sometimes you cut them off for them to grow longer and more beautiful, but that doesn't mean you hate pictures of yourself with it. Meaning, sometimes the people you let go become better people after you leave them, but that doesn't mean they weren't good people when they were with you. And even without them, you're still a beautiful person. In the poem As a Father, he speaks of breaking traditional ideas and gender roles while raising his children. He wants to teach his son to acknowledge and control his emotions and wants to see him as precious. He wants to teach his daughter not to cut herself down and wants to instill body autonomy in her. He basically wants to treat his children like human beings who need a good balance of things to live a healthy life. One of his poems talks about the way writers see people and will write about them in their writing, making them not know how to act or take it. In The Morning I Forgot About You, he speaks of the feelings we go through subconsciously when we start to forget a past love and how it happens so easily that we don't realize it. I am good for that. Sometimes I'll forget a person that I'm with. Like if I don't hear from you in a couple of days and like you're not in my face like that, out of sight, out of mind. Not bragging or nothing like that. Not saying that that's a good thing, but it happens. Um, but I kind of feel like that poem is basically um that poem was basically saying that you may I kind of feel like it was saying like, you may love somebody and you may feel like you cannot live life without them, but sometimes you will have to live life without them, and living life without them isn't as bad as you were convincing yourself it was going to be when you were with them. And I feel like a lot of the times we will say things repetitively until we brainwash ourselves into believing it. I will never love nobody more than I love you. I will never leave you no matter what you do. I will always be by your side. I want to be with you forever. Things like that, because in the moment, that's how we feel. But a lot of times, you can be brainwashing yourself to believe this. And even if you're in an unhealthy situation, you do something. Even if you're in an unhealthy situation, you convince yourself to stay with that person because you tell yourself that you can't live without them, that you don't want to live without them, that you will never find nobody better. And that's not true. Like, it's not. And sometimes the people that you love the most and the people you think you can't live without, sometimes you have to live without them. And it's not nearly as difficult as we make it seem. And I'm not saying that it's super easy. What I'm saying is it's possible. Not saying that you should forget about people or it's easy, you shouldn't have any mixed feelings about it or nothing like that. I'm just saying living without a person is possible. Even when you're having a hard time, you have to remember that you had a life without them before you met them. And it was perfectly normal. You no stress, no worries. You can feel that way again. That's it. In another poem, he speaks about how our native languages are taken from us through colonialism. He says we should forget ourselves and relearn our language. This hit home because I remember most times where my Gullah language was repetitively forced out of me. As I've grown older, I've been welcoming it back and trying to overtalk that voice that automatically corrects me. Even when people correct me, I don't change the way I pronounce something because it's important to my culture. And I don't allow people to belittle the language by calling it broken English. I don't allow people to make it seem less important because it's not a Nigerian language or a Ghana or whatever like that. It's 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 Gullah Geechee, the only group of African Americans, and I hate that term because we're indigenous to America, but the only group who still have their culture intact, and I feel like it's not respected because, like I said, it's something that I noticed that when I talk about our culture, when I speak the language and I say we have our own language, it's like some people just tune it out because it's like unless you are from Africa or you are come from someplace else and come to America, they don't look at us so-called Americans as having culture, and that's weird to me because our culture is what influences a lot of things. Our culture is literally American culture, literally. And I feel like we get belittled a lot and we get treated like strangers in our home. People don't take us serious a lot of the times. They downplay the importance of having a culture like that. Now, I will say, I don't feel like the elders teach us a lot about our culture like they used to do back in the day, but I don't feel like it's a dying culture because I've heard a lot of people say that and it annoys me because y'all don't live here. It's not a dying culture. We still do some customs and traditions that they did back in the day, and it's ingrained in us, really. It's ingrained in us. And that language is thick. That accent, I know y'all hear that accent, is thick. Some words I cannot force my tongue to pronounce the way that it's supposed to be pronounced. I have a unique way of pronouncing things. I have a unique voice, a unique language, a Creole language. And I'm not going to allow nobody to take that away from me. But I give this collection of poetry a 5 out of 5. Like, it really hit home for me. Like, I loved like learning about his culture and learning about Zimbabwe through his words. And also, it was very refreshing seeing a man treat women, um what word am I looking for? Regard women in such a high esteem, because a lot of men don't. And the fact that he recognizes that he comes from a woman, and there are things that you take from that woman, not just life, and not in a way that that didn't come out right. There are things that are instilled in you, like he said. Is There's nothing wrong with being soft. There's no such thing as a soft man. Men can have feminine traits, and there's nothing wrong with it. Just like women can have masculine traits, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like, we all have both of those things. We do. And it just was refreshing hearing a man say that, and hearing a man, like I said, regard a woman in such a high esteem. Like, we don't really get talked about like that a lot, especially not by black men. So I really appreciated his poetry because it made me feel proud to be a black woman through his experiences, and him talking about the things that he inherited from his mother and from women, and not being ashamed of those things. Because I feel like even the word feminine is used negatively. Like, for instance, him being called soft because he had feminine features. Like, what is wrong with that? Nothing. And I love that he basically said the same thing. But I definitely think that this collection of poetry is worth reading. It was a beautiful collection of poetry filled with reminders we all need, comfort we all crave, and validation we all seek. And you can find it at Amazon. But thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you think about it. Have you read Zimbabwe? If you did, what did you get from it? Yeah, like, let's talk in the comments. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see y'all. Oh, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. But I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye. Before you go, check out my website at srgrahamwrites.org and subscribe to my mailing list to get exclusive updates on works in progress, other news, and blog posts. Thank you.